The Luminous Mind, Episode 19.
Focus on your dot. Anytime I feel like I'm getting out of my kind of zone of what I can control, that kind of always brings me back to I can only directly impact so much. If I can be the best version of myself to make that impact, that's all I can do.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Ty Salsbery. Ty was raised in a small town, Montana, and attended college in Dixon State University, that's in Dixon, North Dakota. While attending DSU, he majored in secondary English and history education. After teaching in a very rural Montana for 2 years, Ty and his wife moved to Idaho Falls, where Ty taught freshman and sophomore English at Hillcrest High School. After 5 years of teaching, Ty accepted a principalship at Holy Rosary Catholic School. A year later, he started Bonneville Online High School in School District number 93. 3 months into the job, Ty added K-12 online principal to his workload. He's been principal of the K-12 online program for Bonneville Online Schools for the last 3 years and enjoys the challenge of growing a successful online program. He lives in Idaho Falls with his wife, Kelsey, and their 3-year-old daughter, Kirby. I like that name. Welcome, Ty.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's good to be with you.
Yeah. So just to give you a little background, Ty is the principal of the school that my children attend, which is an online virtual school. I kind of told the audience a little bit about you. Do you kind of want to go into a little more detail and just tell us about your family's hobbies and then kind of where you teach and what your profession is?
Sure. My wife, Kelsey, works for a financial advisor in Idaho Falls, and she enjoys cooking. I think she's one of her New Year's resolutions is to start a food blog this year.
Oh, that'll be fun.
That'll be something fun and new for them. And my daughter Kirby is 3, as you mentioned, and she really loves to do pretty much anything outside. So it's been fun taking her snowshoeing this winter and sledding, and we do camping in the summer, and really looking forward to this summer with her. We're going to get a bigger lake kayak and do warm river and some lake kayaking, fishing.
And hammock camping, right?
Yeah, I hope to look into hammock camping more, but I do a lot of golfing and I try to read at least 20 books a year.
Oh, cool. So what was your personal educational experience?
Very rural upbringing. I grew up in a ranching family in eastern Montana. So the high school I had was 200 students. I graduated with 45.
Wow.
So obviously in that situation, you can be exposed to pretty much as many activities as you want. So I was fortunate to be our class president, student body president. I was a 4-sport athlete.
Yeah, that's kind of back in the day when you can do 5 or 6 because they're all different.
Well, in small towns, it's easy to make every team too. So. And then my mom was a long time substitute teacher, and my dad was a rancher, but he was a assistant wrestling coach, and then he was my head wrestling coach when I was in high school.
Okay.
And so all of their best friends were educators. My dad's 2 best friends were actually my head football coach and defensive coordinator. So I've just been surrounded by people in education all of the time. From when I was probably a sophomore in high school, I knew that I would be an English teacher and a coach and eventually a principal. So I was talking to somebody last night and I was like, I don't know what else I would do. So
Well, that's cool. So, and we talked about, you've taken a private school principalship and then now you're an online school principal. Why did you choose to teach alternative to kind of the traditional school?
I think it was mostly just the opportunities presented themselves. I applied for 5 assistant principal jobs in District 93. 2 of them were, 2 elementary principals jobs and 3 assistant principal jobs, and finished second in each of them. And Holy Rosary took a chance on me when I was 27 to take that school and make some kind of drastic changes to their school environment. We had to make some cuts for financial situations, and I like the challenge of problem solving and being able to start something new and change the paradigm of what people think of education.
Oh, that's cool. And then why did you choose the online?
Again, it was just an opportunity. They didn't have a position for an online high school principal. And so after I had interviewed those 5 times and got shot down, they're like, "Are you interested in starting a school in an online setting?" And I had never been involved in it, and I just said, "Sure, let's try it out." So it wasn't something that I really sought out. It was just a great opportunity that presented itself, and we've grown our high school from 25 students in the fall of 2012 to 105 students full-time and another 280 dual-enrolled students in District 93.
Well, it's kind of fun. Every time I come in, there's somebody else that I recognize. I'm like, wow, they're doing this too? So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to throw you the curveball. Can you tell us what the difference is between the public, private, and online schools, and what the benefits of each, and then also the downsides?
Okay, I'll try to keep that answer as organized as I can. So I guess we'll just start with the public school, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, I'm sure, too, but a little bit of the bureaucracy of being in a public system, just with the testing that's coming down from the federal government, and then also I guess just finding the balance of what data and how much testing is good enough for teachers to make informed decisions to move or to make sound decisions in their classroom, and what is just jumping through the hoops.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
So I think that's and like I said, I don't know. I'm kind of a glass half full guy most of the time, as you know. So I think that there's good things that are happening in every classroom in the nation. It's just at a time right now where things are kind of so touch and go with the direction of public education that, just finding that balance and trying to make sure that kids are being taught every day and not just tested to death.
Yeah.
Is kind of the thing that I see in public education that is different. The private school, the biggest thing there was just, as a principal, balancing the financial piece of it, and always worried about tuition and collecting money and fundraising and making sure that your budget is, that you can have and keep good teachers on a significantly lower salary. That was a huge challenge. And so that was, something that kind of wore on me was just the fundraising piece and kind of having to be a figurehead. And it was difficult too to go to church and then people coming up to you after church and talking to you about how you discipline their kid on Friday. So that was difficult and kind of got a little stressful.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Towards the end of that year. But that opportunity obviously opened up a ton of doors for me. So I'm very appreciative for that opportunity, and I wouldn't be a high school principal in the 4th largest district in the state without that opportunity. So. Yeah. And then the online education is so new that the expectation level is not maybe as high because everything we do is so new. So there's things that I feel like are moving really slowly as far as growing our enrollment and making sure that our kids are getting a comparable education that is preparing them for life after high school. And I'll go to another district or a statewide meeting and they're like, "You had 225 kids volunteer to do summer school to accelerate their graduation progress. We only had 3. And so it's like, I guess I'm always kind of looking ahead, and the paradigm shift, like I said, of like how people look at online education is kind of a personal goal of mine to maybe just change that dialogue or open that dialogue to this is a comparable great opportunity for the families that want to participate.
Well, and you were talking about the paradigm shift, even looking between, we have 2 districts in Idaho Falls, and the difference between, one district and the other. District 93 is definitely more on board, even though I'm sure at some of your bureaucratic type meetings, people are still trying to grasp what's going on. It just seems like people are a lot more open to it in that district in the last few years. I've been in virtual education for 10 years, so watching the last 3 years is just, I think it's gone very fast. So here's another curveball for you. Where do you find parents are most involved? Public, private, or online?
That's a great question. And I'm not trying to stall either just by saying that because, and that's the thing too, I'm having a bunch of our friends at, get-togethers asking me which district and which attendance zone they should live in for what schools. And in my experience in having those, rural teaching experience, online, private, and public, is that really it is dependent on the family. So I think in every situation I've been in, you're going to have 10% of the families that are super involved. And generally those are the kids that are the most successful.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then you're going to have, that big group that is on board and they're supportive, but they don't say much. And then you're going to have that other group that's on the other end that you're always trying to pull along.
Yeah.
So I think in our case, obviously the parents are super involved because they're the learning coach in their home every day. But as far as saying one over the other, I mean, you look around at any PTO, you're going to have really involved PTO parents that some are just better at getting everyone involved than others. But I think generally in our setting, they're the most involved because our teachers are there for support and they're the ones with the kids every day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a loaded question, I guess.
In our online setting, we probably have struggled mostly with activity planning because our parents are so burned out after, just dealing with them every day that the activity part is taking a hit. We don't have like this really strong PTO because I'm not saying it's not strong because we have great parties and stuff like that. But I mean, we're already struggling to just do the bare minimum with our kids, let alone all the extra meetings afterwards. So
yeah. I would agree with that for sure. And that's a tough line to draw. We've picked up 5 kids this week that were already attending school in our district that they know that they're going to have some surgery or they're dealing with some medical issues. And when those moms come in, I just say the biggest kind of obstacle that you're going to face as a parent that schools from home is that you are going to have to draw the line between school time and family time. And me personally, I would have a heck of a time with that.
Yeah.
So
it definitely,
I have a lot of respect for you guys.
Well, it's a lifestyle change. And then it takes a lot of, you have to really learn some psychology behind your child and, working with them. So tell us how your paradigm and educational philosophy has changed over time with experience. I mean, you talked about the traditional rural high school going from that to this online education.
I think the biggest thing for me is just that I can support every family's decision for whichever route that they want to go. The traditional school environment is not for every kid. And there's families that are affluent and want to travel all year long and expose their kids to different cities and different places in the world, and they now have that option. I think that with a solid family home life, that every kid is learning every day. I mean, they're going to get home, and even if they're not doing homework and you go to the museum, that's a parent taking the initiative to expose their kid to alternative educational experiences. And I think in our online setting, families just have more opportunity to expose their kids to maybe some field trip type things or enrichment that a kid that's in a brick and mortar building doesn't have access to.
Yeah.
But I've also seen that the online learning isn't for every family either. It doesn't take families long to realize, holy smokes, this is not for us.
Yeah.
and then they go back to the school, and that's fine too. Our enrollment is pretty fluid. We have 80% of our families are returning families, and then that 20% just is kind of a revolving door. And that used to get to me a little bit, but now I just realize that it's not for everybody, and people should embrace the opportunity to try what's best for them and their kid and their family.
Well, and hopefully they tell you soon into the crisis. So.
Yeah. So. And our teachers are really, they've gotten a lot better over the last 3 years too. We talk about those families that are struggling every week and what we can do to help. So yeah. I feel like that's been something that we've put an emphasis on. And as you know, working in a K-12 curriculum, it really is designed to be a year-long class. And so if they struggle the first 2 months, they're really behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, then they struggle the rest of the year. So
that's the biggest change I've noticed in myself. And we work with 2 alternative schools in our district as well. We have students dual enroll. We've got our kind of alternative middle school where kids are maybe struggling with some emotional stuff or some discipline issues, and they can earn their high school credits online in a lab with 5 other kids instead of being in a traditional classroom with 30 and having to try to navigate the hallways, with 1,500 students. So we can help them and we can help the kid that's working 35 hours a week and wants to finish their senior year online. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. So what is the best advice that you have ever received?
I used to work at Hillcrest High School, and one of my best friends, we were all having lunch one day, and somebody was kind of complaining about something with budget cuts or a parent that was being a pain or something. My friend just took a blank piece of paper and drew a dot on it, and he said, "You see this dot? That's your classroom. That's everything you can control. All this white, you can't control that. So focus on your dot." Anytime I feel like I'm getting out of my kind of zone of what I can control, that kind of always brings me back to I can only directly impact so much. If I can be the best version of myself to make that impact, that's all I can do.
Well, that's great advice for almost any situation, so thanks. Okay, so what do you think about the socialization activities of our online school? And then tell us kind of what they are. I know we kind of had a discussion about this. That's one of my frustrations, especially you have a child that's in an online setting. You know, we do all kinds of sports activities with them, and then they get to middle school, and then everything heads back to the public school. You know, what are some things that kids can do in online settings to get that socialization?
I think I like our socialization activities. I like going over there. I was there today. This year our theme is around the world, so every Thursday there's a different part of the world that kids are learning about or are getting a little bit of exposure. So it's educational, and our teachers do a pretty good job of making it fun. So like today, for example, they just were talking about Antarctica, and so they did like a geology and climate lesson to start, and then they made some paper snowflakes as like a craft activity, and then they went out and played floor hockey. So our teachers have done a nice job restructuring our model of how we're doing those, I think, and taking some of that pressure off the parents so that parents aren't feeling like they have to run a club. And then we do 3 30-minute kind of mini lessons, and that seems to be well received. I mean, with me, I would love to see our whole student population there every week and have 125 kids there, but it's kind of out of our control if we don't require that. And I think it's more of an enrichment opportunity than if we're not awarding a credit for it that we can't require it. And like you said, our parties have been excellent and our kids love them. So, I mean, I really want to hold on to our Thursdays. I do like our bus field trip to begin every school year to kind of let the kids form relationships on their own. And that was really well received this year in Pocatello. I think it's definitely an emphasis for us to always try to look at how we're doing things with socialization activities and try to get more participation just to get kids out of the house. But when you can't require it, or I don't want to require it, so it kind of is what it is at this point.
Well, and you've worked really hard to improve the school culture. I think when you get parents that choose to do something so independent, you're always going to struggle. I mean, that's why they choose this, so they have the freedom to come and go. And what about high school? What do you see? I mean, you see a lot of different kids coming in and out. What are they doing for their socialization type activities?
At the high school level, our 2 biggest classes are our juniors and seniors. So, for example, we have 45 seniors right now. And of those 45 seniors, 20 of them are working 30 hours a week.
Wow.
So, I mean, for their socialization, they're essentially on a on a college schedule that they've created for themselves. So a lot of them, unless they're really struggling with math, English, or history, I don't see the whites of their eyes until they come in to take their finals. So I'm fine with that. And as long as they're on top of things, then we're doing our job. So, I mean, to get more freshmen and sophomores involved and kind of working together on some projects or something, I think when we get, 3 or 4 full-time teachers that are available to organize those types of things, that is going to happen. But right now it's just so hard with just Sheldon and I kind of holding down the fort here.
They have a basketball hoop up there. So where do you see socialization activities going? I mean, I talked about the sports in the school. Like I said, around here, everything heads back to the public school. Where do you see that going? I mean, do you see that where kids can find that outside of the school?
It's hard for me to anticipate that. I mean, where we are right now. Our new lead teacher, Shelley, has done a great job of seeking out community events and sharing those in the newsletters now so that people know when City League basketball is going to happen, how to set a team up. All of those things that get sent home in a kid's book bag at school.
But we don't get them here.
That our kids aren't getting, that now they have weekly in the newsletter.
Yeah.
I think that'll help, build some culture, and maybe some online families want to get a team together and they can draw from our school specifically. I mean, that's something that could happen eventually.
That's an excellent idea, because that was the problem that I already always had, is that everything got sent home with the school and we didn't ever get it, and so I was always either late registering or we missed it.
Yeah, so Shelly is getting weekly emails from Sam, who gets everything is approved across her desk at the district office. She sends everything to Shelly weekly now.
Oh, good.
So every family will get all of that information in the newsletter.
That's great. Okay, what would you say one of the biggest obstacles you face are, and what have you learned from those struggles?
Just a little note I wrote here was getting families that school from home all moving the same direction. Meaning, it's difficult for me when I don't physically see the kids and the parents, like at school drop-off, to be able to just touch base and say, hey, we noticed that you're really struggling. What's going on? What can we do to help? Or pull them into my office and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And when they're all kind of scattered throughout southeastern Idaho, it's difficult to build that shared vision through an email or a series of emails or a survey. So,
well, if they don't answer back.
And that's a huge challenge and a little bit frustrating at times. But I used to let it get to me a lot more than I do now. But just the lack of face-to-face contact with families is difficult for me. But that's why I'm glad we have our dual-enrolled kids, so I can go to Hillcrest and Bonneville and see some people.
That's great. So how do you combat the discouragement that you have with this position? Just not.
I don't know if it's discouragement. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm kind of a glass half full guy, and I just kind of accept it for what it is. And I feel like right now we've got as solid of a staff, K through 12, as we've had since I've been here. So I just trust them to kind of be the buffer and to keep me up to date on how things are going. And generally, with their weekly calls and monthly calls and emails that they're sending, they really have the pulse of what our families are doing. And then I'm just kind of the, what do I need to do to support you guy?
Yeah, it definitely helps to have some testosterone in there with all those female teachers. So before we go on, let's take a minute to hear about our sponsors.
Hey, fire starters, this is Mark, producer of The Luminous Mind. If you're like me, the thought of going out to the store and shopping is enough to make you want to crawl in a hole and hide. If that's you, then do your shopping online through Amazon. Just go to theluminousmind.net, click on the Amazon link, and shop away. Also, most of the books and resources that Rebecca and her guests discuss can be found on our Amazon links as well. Again, if you're like me, you have already accidentally signed up for Amazon Prime. So most of those purchases should have free shipping as well. Good luck!
Welcome back. All right. So what are some successes that you've seen with your job?
I think I'm glad that you asked this after the last question, because I don't want to make it sound like things aren't going well at all, because I feel like there's been huge strides. And like you said, District 93 has been so supportive of our school. But we have the 8 and 6 program is one thing. We had 215 students, or 215 credits earned last summer.
Wow.
In 8 weeks. And those are all students that are working towards either early graduation or want to earn more college and dual credit courses their junior and senior year. So that's been a huge success in our district. And that was just kind of thrust upon us because the legislation rolled out in like April, and I had like a month and a half to get that set up. And the first summer we had 50 students that earned 75 credits total. So we went from that the first year to 215 the second.
Wow.
Summer.
Well, and word of mouth, I'm sure this summer, you might even double it again,
Yeah, and with the crowding situation currently in District 93 at the high school level, I think students are going to try to accelerate to create a little bit of flexibility in their schedule when they're a junior and senior to make sure they get the classes they want. So that's been good. Our increased enrollment obviously is a huge bonus. Right now, full-time K through 12, we're about 250 students working in our K-12 or working with our teachers weekly or daily. That's been a big bonus.
Well, and you've accessed students from all over the state, right? Well, not all over the state, but...
We have, but we're kind of reevaluating our vision for the school and how we can best serve kids kind of regionally, because even though we do have the opportunity to virtually do some district testing, that SAT test day that we offer the juniors, and then also some of our, like the ISAT, coordinating that statewide is really difficult. It drains a lot of resources, and also special education services to students that are 5 hours away is very difficult depending on what they need.
Oh, I never think about that.
The other big thing this year, we picked up students from the Behavioral Health Center that's connected to the Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center, the hospital. And those are students that do extended resident stay in a rehabilitation place. And already since we've picked them up in October, they've earned cumulatively over the course of this time about 35 credits that they wouldn't have received otherwise.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you're helping.
So, and those kids come from Alaska, Utah, Washington, Oregon, and Montana. And so they're able to come here, and if they stay for, 90 days and can get 3 credits, that's about what it would be to attend a quarter of high school. So they can come here and not miss a beat.
Oh, that's pretty neat. Yeah.
We recently had a high school junior score 33 on his ACT.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
and he hasn't attended a brick and mortar school since he was a freshman. So I think right there is indicative of what families can do from home while using online learning to support what they're doing.
That's a test he would take if he were going to any other school. So that's not our testing. That's definitely what.
Yeah, that's a national
test.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
So that's exciting, and I'm actually meeting with that kid tomorrow with the counselors at Bonneville High School to make sure that he's getting all the scholarship money that he deserves for that score.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And then the other big success is just the number of seniors that we had last year. We had 8 students graduate last year that were full-time and earn a Bonneville Online High School diploma, and 6 of them went to a 4-year university. So that college placement, I think, has been a big bonus as well, where not only are we providing the classes to get a diploma, but colleges are recognizing us as an accredited high school in the state of Idaho too. So it's been the transition for those kids to get into BYU, Provo, BYUI, and ISU has been pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So you've talked about being a glass half full type of guy. What else makes you successful? What other habits do you have that help?
I don't know. This was kind of a funny one because my 2 administrative assistants, Lori and Jody, always kind of laugh at how clean and tidy our office always is. But I think that one of my teachers said, "I'm just going to get you a box of Clorox wipes for Christmas." But I think that one of the things, I read it in, I think it was Up From Slavery, a book by Booker T. Washington. He talks about, just personal habits in there and being successful. And this was written in the 1800s, I think, but a lot of the things still apply. But one of the things he mentioned is always having your desk ready for the next day of work. And so that's kind of the biggest thing is I just really try to, my desk has minimal paper on it. My inbox only has the emails that I haven't responded to in it. I try to return every call that is in my voicemail before I go home. So I just try to resolve all of the issues I can in a day so that the next day I can start fresh and not feel stressed or have anxiety about coming to the office. So I just try to, when I'm driving to work, if I feel like I'm stressed, it's going to be a rough day. But if I come to work and I know it's going to be a blank slate and my office is going to be clean and I don't have clutter or chaos around me, I think that helps me be a little bit more positive and a little less stressed maybe.
Well, at
least I would like to think so.
I'm sending my boys in to talk to you about that then, because they seem to listen to you. I have to tell our audience that my son Nick and I went the rounds about him listening to music as he's doing his schoolwork, and we go into Ty's office one day and he has music playing, and Nick was like, "See, Mom?" He does. So I'm gonna send him in because I've been telling my kids, okay, always make sure your desk is cleaned at the end of the day, and it never is. So
yeah, and that's the thing too is I've chosen to be in school every day for my entire career. So if I'm on my way to school, whether I'm a sophomore in high school or 55 years old, if I feel like I'm anxious or it's not going to be fun because I'm unorganized or don't feel like I'm prepared, then I probably shouldn't be doing it anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
If the excitement is sucked out of it, then it's not worth doing. So
Correct.
We kind of already talked about some of your successes, but what is the one thing that you're doing with your students that you think is the most exciting?
I think having our full-time math teacher here has been maybe the biggest impact for students that we've had since I've been here.
Well, and great math tutors, I think, is a great selling point. I actually use that whenever someone's talking to me about Bonneville Online. I'm like, oh, they have an awesome math tutor, so, and then they're always intrigued by that.
And just having him here and in our office, as you know, is really low key, and we try to keep it as friendly as we can so that kids want to be here.
Yeah, you're both very approachable, that's for sure.
And we share a lot of students with the Technical Careers High School, with students that are, on track to be in the trades. And so if they can't fit math into their schedule, they can take math with us and then go back to the Technical Careers High School and be in the welding or auto body shop in the afternoons. And that's really exciting, and sharing those students. And we do our graduation ceremony with the Technical Careers High School. And so just how our district high schools, there's 6 of them, just how we're all kind of morphing into one big high school opportunity for kids is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely I've seen a much more cohesive operation between all of the schools, so that is great.
Yeah, so just for example to the listeners, last year there was a student in one semester that had 3 high schools on his transcript for one semester. So he had Bonneville Online, Hillcrest High School, and 2 TCHS credits.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
I mean, really, there's as many opportunities in our district as a kid wants at this point.
Yeah.
Kids just have to be proactive and have kind of a vision or plan for how they want to move through their high school career.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of your long-term goals?
So I don't really set goals. So I just think if you take care of each day, that good things are going to happen generally. So I try to do some New Year's resolutions, but if I focus on more than 3 months in advance, I seem to lose track of what I actually wanted to accomplish, because it generally doesn't work out in my experience. So I just feel fortunate that I've been able to get to where I am. But to say in 5 years I'm going to be a district superintendent would be, I don't know if that would actually happen or not. So I'll just trust that I'll be where I need to be when I need to be there.
Well, and cleaning up your desk every day, that is a big goal for some people. So.
It is. If I can do that and come to work the next day with a positive attitude, things will work out in the long run.
Great. So what advice or encouragement would you give somebody who's starting out, either other teachers that want to take on an alternative role, or to your parents?
I just think you just need to focus on the people that you're around. It can be a negative profession for sure, and I think that there's some people that get into education with a lot of positivity and excitement about changing, impacting kids' lives. And then they get bogged down by the minutia and the number of papers they have to grade, and, all the reports they have to submit, or making sub-plans, or how many sick days they get. I mean, it could go on and on forever. But I just think that if you just build positive professional relationships as an educator, you're going to find a lot of enjoyment in your job. And I think that you'll grow professionally. So it's easy to sit in a teacher's lounge and complain about the 5 kids that you might share with another teacher that are maybe a discipline issue, but you can't forget about the other 95 that you have that are awesome. So Just try to focus on what's best for the kids and not about everything else around you.
Yeah.
Focus on your dot.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Dang it. So great. All right. So do you have a favorite book or resource that you want to share?
I just wrote down 2 books. I mean, like I said, before we had Kirby, one of the New Year's resolutions I set was to read 50 books in a year. And so one of them that I read that year was The Rhythm of Life by Matthew Kelly. It would kind of be I wouldn't call it a self-help book, but it's just kind of inspirational, really easy to read, kind of focuses on different areas of your life. That book really made a big difference kind of in my personal life a few years ago. And then the other one, for anybody that's a sports fan, John Wooden, he wrote a book on leadership, and he won 12 national titles with UCLA, and he's just a really cool guy that had some nice insight on kind of how to structure your day to be a consistent, positive leader. Or one of the things that he always said is, I'm not going to treat each of my players the same. I'm going to treat them how they deserve to be treated. So if a kid's working his butt off, he might get an opportunity to play more than the better athlete that isn't working as hard. And I think that that's applicable in education as well, with staff members or students or even parents that come in. If people are willing to work with you and work hard, you generally tend to give them some breaks that you might not give somebody that's in your office negatively all the time. So
you're giving us a lot of breaks all the time, so thank you.
Well, I just think that it's just like how people choose to receive their education. Everybody's not going to fit in the same exact mold. Some kids are going to try to cut corners, and you have to recognize that and get them back on track. And others, you have to okay, it's going to be okay. You got a 95. You don't need the 100 every time. And trying to just balance all of that and just focus on kind of what everybody needs individually is something that was a really good message from that book.
Right. So how would you like to see the world change in the future?
I kind of chuckled when I saw that one after I talked about how I don't set goals. But I just think more people taking the time for, face-to-face conversation and maintaining relationships. I think that in our society, or even you see kids today, it's hard for them to maintain a conversation for very long because everything is so digital. And I tend to be a little bit more old school. I like having a face-to-face conversation and trying to maintain those relationships outside of email and Facebook. So I don't know if the pendulum will ever swing back that way. But I think that as people get busier and as people see the value in going places and hiking and camping where they don't have cell reception, how good that is for their family life when they just have to hang out around a campfire.
Well, and one of our needs is still the physical, interaction that you have with somebody. So even if our world goes more digital, we still, psychologically, we need that, to be a thriving individual. Before we say goodbye, is there any parting words of advice or maybe a favorite quote that you'd like to share? And then I don't know if you feel comfortable with people contacting you, but, your contact information. Some people like to share that.
I would just kind of going back to the advice or encouragement, somebody getting into education. If we're just thinking about that, I would just say to anybody that's thinking about being a teacher or a coach, don't let the negative press that you currently read or the lack of pay reconsider your thoughts on that, because there's a ton of great things happening in every school every day. So if you're thinking about getting into education, it's probably because it's almost like something that you're being called to do, I guess, for a lack of a better term. It's generally those people are the ones at Christmas where all the little kids want to play with them all the time. So I think that if you're interested in doing it, don't be dissuaded by the negative press that you're hearing right now. It's a rewarding job, and I love it. Love coming to work every day, and don't really know what else I would do. So.
Well, and one of my goals with the Luminous Mind is to help create so many options. The more options that people have, the more they can leverage that personally and not have to work with a teachers union that protects anybody regardless of whatever they may be, and continues to reward those good teachers that are learning and growing and willing to do new hard things. So definitely applaud you for taking this position, and I appreciate everything you've done for our family. We're the whiny ones.
No, that's not true.
So
do you want my email address?
Oh, sure. Go ahead with that.
So my last name is Salsbery, so it's pretty easy. So it's Salsbery and then Tyrell, Salsbery Tyrell @gmail.com.
Great. And he's a great resource of how to grow an online school in your own district. All right. Well, thank you for coming on and talking to me and letting us know the changes that are going on. It's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. So, enjoy your family.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Bonneville Online and Ty Salsbery, please go to our website, theluminousmind.net. Also, when you're there, click on the fire tabs to be a fire starter yourself. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Get our audio content by subscribing to iTunes and YouTube. Light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.